Welcome and thank you for clicking on my video this Saturday. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving and you're ready to get into some bigger time frames because we're going to get into the shorter ones on Sunday, but it is good to zoom out on things and really see where the market is at because it looks like it is potentially hitting a major top. So we'll see how we have behaved in the past and if we can read into what is going on right now, formulate some situations, not necessarily predictions, right? We're never trying to predict. We're never putting money behind a prediction. We're looking at the situations to allow us to trade like water, where we are open to bullish and bearish scenarios, and then we're able to formulate a plan around that. If one of those confirms, then we can make our moves. We want to overall be reacting in the market, and that's something key to understand. We're going to look over at a lot on the S&P 500. We're going to check in on some other stuff, look at the dollar, so stick around. I think it'll be a very helpful video, and that's all this channel is trying to do, is help out some retail traders understand momentum and how it can really give you a hint and give you an edge of what's to come next. Let's get into it. Now, the SPY has a bunch of drawings on it, so I'm going to do the SPX, and we're going to pay attention to these important points, try to get through it pretty quickly, and then look at some important things overall. I want you guys to have a great Saturday. I just want this video to be helpful and have something for you to take away from it. The first thing we can take away is swing trading is a great thing. If you keep curling up into positive territory, you see great moves. If you're just able to learn enough to understand these, hey, we got a course down there for you in the description called Swing Trading, and if you want to see how the turning points happen, we'll discuss that a little bit in this video, but the full technical analysis course, both are 90% off till tomorrow. So tomorrow's going to be the last time you can get it for that price, unless we do a sneaky sale with Christmas. We'll see. So what we want to pay attention to is these key points. While we experienced some bad things in recent times, and we want to pay attention to, are we seeing those type of signals right now? Because really, the only thing that we see right now that is similar to the last time that we did experience a big drop is the fact that, hey, we potentially do have a level hit up here of the MACD, a level reading here of 452. Pretty freaking wild. And the last time that crossed over, that was pretty bad, but you notice we remained positive. So can we experience one of those moments right now? Yes, you can, but we're going to pay attention to, is this thing actually topping out here? And we're going to use monthly and weekly charts. We notice that at these key points where we experience something bad, and it's not something random like COVID, which actually you do see signals here as well when we get to the weekly. Well, we experienced a 21% drop. I want you to notice this corrective move first, though, because we could experience that corrective move first now and see this actually head up into maybe October of 2025. I think that's a key thing to keep in our brain right now. But did we have a signal here that told us, hey, there is weakness in momentum? You did. You had a weekly chart giving you that divergence on the RSI, not on the MACD at the same time. And you guys know, if you've been here a while, I like my things to show up at the same time. It adds more credibility, and in your head it goes, hey, it adds more weakness, because at this point, back to 2020, when we did actually build back up, we actually noticed we created a triple divergence for the RSI and actually show a divergence here for the MACD. So you notice when they were at the same time, something uglier happened. Now when we get into the weekly charts, we'll talk about that a little further, but wouldn't you like to stay away from a 35% drop? Yes, you would. So let's pay attention to what's going on in the near term. Now, in the near term, we noticed that back in 2022, that was a painful one, and you see the same little divergence that we see right here, just a little bit tighter, with a very simple correction in September. We could go through a simple correction right here with the signals we're seeing on shorter time frames. So make sure you're subscribed so you can go into the shorter time frames with us. We give out monthly and weekly expected moves for the SPY and the Qs completely free on YouTube, and we even give you daily expected moves completely free every single night on YouTube. Okay, so subscribe, check in. It's very, very useful. It is the best support and resistance that you're ever going to see, and it's just what the options market is pricing in, real money behind it to give you real levels to pay attention to every week. So thank you so much for subscribing. If you're still reading into this video, that's fantastic. Let's give you some more info here and see if you want to subscribe by the end. We notice here that we saw that divergence. Now, the key thing is, are we seeing one of these moments right now? And the answer is no. So we immediately have to be open to a corrective move that ends up going higher. And the other thing we need to check is, are we really greedy in this area, or do we maybe need to head higher to get retail even more into this, even though we saw extreme retail buying in last week? And right away, we just pull up fear and greed, and we notice that we are just in greed. So we have to be open to the fact that we need people to get greedier because they want to steal as much money from you as possible. We know that that is the case. And the reason that we pay attention to momentum is because once everyone else is getting greedy and they're about to rip away all of retail's money because they're playing a rigged game, well, money always tells us when they're selling, and momentum will catch that signal. So we want to look at this and say, hey, can this correct then? Well, yes, it can. And maybe even it's a quick correction like back here in September of 2021. So we'll pay attention to that. But we know that the worst things happen when it's on your MACD and RSI at the same time. So what else should we be open to? Well, there's two scenarios we should be open to, and then we're going to move on to weekly charts. And the two scenarios we should be open to is this is actually happening right now. That's the scarier one. That is the scarier one, is this is an actual trap. It's kind of out of nowhere as far as fear and greed goes, but we know in the shorter time frames, it really looks like a trap. So if this is going to get ugly, it pretty much has to get ugly right now, because here you have flat, if not slightly up on the MACD, but you do have that same little triple divergence that is flat right now. If you head higher, then most likely you're going to go through a corrective move that actually sends stocks higher. We'll pay attention to the shorter time frames to let you know if that is going to happen. And the thing we're talking about with this moving higher is you're going to see a moment like this right over here where you see a corrective move and then that turns up over time, and then October comes and we actually have the divergence on the RSI and the MACD at the same time. But it's always good to look into weeklies, and that's what we like to do on this channel. We like to look at a monthly. That thing looks really high up. How can I see when this thing will turn down? Well, let me look at a little shorter time frame, right? That's something we do on this channel, and it is a very helpful thing to learn because you will spot weakness before someone's staring and swing trading on a monthly chart. You'll see it first. And I want to point out a few things here. Back here, and we dropped by 21%. What'd you have here at the top? You had weekly divergence. Now let's zoom in on that for a second because this is very important to look at. This is where you can really see in the past how these signals can really help you in losing money, because this signal confirmed on the week of October 18th at 2,765, and then you went all the way down to 2,354 before that thing was able to base out. So wouldn't that have saved you a little bit of money just staring and knowing what divergence is? Then you end up V-shape and you go a little bit higher, and you'll notice at the top here, you didn't necessarily have it on the weekly, you definitely had it on the daily. And the thing is, I don't think we were supposed to experience something bad in the cycle here, and I think this took everyone off guard. And the reason for that is because I just have it on the RSI, not on the MACD at the same time, but we notice how the weakness shows up, it confirms, and then we say, ooh, 3,000, that went all the way down to 2,200 before that was able to V-shape back up. Okay, so paying attention to these points is very good. And we'll notice as we move down the line for our other drops, we start to see these wonky divergences. And this is more what you have right now with potential to make something like this in the future. We notice this quick little correction that turned up. That took all these divergences that were very flat on the RSI, and we actually make a super, super dramatic, super significant divergence on the MACD right here, on the RSI right here at the same time. And you notice that is what sent us into the potential bear market that ended up basing out. This type of market is where if you take the course, you're going to make the most amount of money. Like, that's something I will say. Because this, if you're really good at it, if you get good at it, and that's important, be accountable, guys. You have to understand these things. If you're having trouble, show up to our live show, ask questions. I am not someone who wants to get you to buy something and then go away forever. No, I want to make sure you understand it. Show up to our live show, ask a question. If I can't answer it live, I'll tell you to send me an email. All right, because you need to be aware of these momentum signals, because not only did you see a divergence at this top, but you saw a divergence at the bottom. This is when I started to buy stocks, was when I started to see these signals confirm. We noticed that on your MACD down here, what did you have? You had a divergence. You had a positive divergence this time. The price action coming down, the MACD is facing up, and you see that on the RSI at the same time. Very key. It's at the same time. That means, hey, this might be where the monthly is going to start to base out and curl up over time. This might be where you want to invest. Now, do we have a point or some signal on the weekly like this that is telling us, yeah, invest, put all your money into the market right now? Ooh, we're actually not seeing that. If anything, we are seeing something very similar to before 2022 actually happened, right? Before all of this happened. And thank you so much for subscribing. Sorry, I always forget to turn that off when I'm filming, but thank you so much for subscribing. But I'm just saying you are seeing that right now, and it got dramatic. So what is happening right now, and why you still want to be aware that this weekly crossing down would be a bad thing if it happened right now. If this leaks out for a little bit more time, we squeeze as we were on Friday. If we keep squeezing, well, then we can get rid of this and this won't be as significant. And that will be very important, because if you drop right now, you have triple divergence that was flat going straight down now. You have a divergence that is flat, going down a little bit more for the MACD. This is a significant divergence to pay attention to, and all we're talking about is if this is going to behave a little bit longer, if it's going to leak out a little longer, we could correct even just down to the 20 or maybe the 50, turn up over time, and see something bad in March, according to our weekly signals. In the weekly signals, we can pay attention to things a little bit closer. On the monthly scale, we were paying attention to if it could cross down, maybe leaking into a move higher into October. But now we're talking about weeklies, and we can look at this a little bit tighter. So pay attention, because you could be at that weekly weakness right now, but you could also see that weakness go into March of 2025 if we're able to correct and actually head higher. We'll see what happens. We always follow the signals. This is why we trade like water. A stock can go whichever direction it wants to go at any time. We just want to pay attention to momentum and see what is confirming, and then think, hey, I want to put my money where the most probable thing is to happen. And that would be downside for a correction as of right now for the weekly, but you can be open to a crash. And if a crash happens and you're just paying attention to the signal, you're still going to benefit from a bigger drop. Oh, what else can we read into if there's going to be some dramatic selling? Well, before these moments, a lot of the time, the dollar has bottomed before we actually see that weakness coming in. And so we want to pay attention to these key points, these tops, right? We want to pay attention to them, and we can look at the dollar and mark off those points and say, hey, what happened in the dollar before a lot of these moments happen? And more so before, in 2020, we actually saw something with COVID happen. It was kind of out of nowhere, and then we saw some major pumping into the system. But we did notice the dollar actually showing green here while the top was doing that topping process back in 2020. Let's go to 2018, because we noticed that the dollar saw this spike higher while the market continued to head higher, and then once that actually did find its top, the dollar continued to head higher. So we noticed the dollar based out before the market actually topped. What are we paying attention to here in 2022? Well, the dollar based out and actually headed higher, and guess what? There's a weekly divergence right here, just so you know. So you can get a little hint of that. And we just noticed that in January 3rd, 2022 is when the market topped, and the dollar based out before that actually happened. So what do we notice for the past couple of months? The dollar is trying to base out and trying to get a move into positive territory. Now, I want to make this very clear. This can leak out all the way. It can leak out for a long time, because you notice the dollar based out, it crossed up, and it still took 3 months, 4 months before we found that top. And you'll notice that we haven't even curled up on this MACD yet. So you have the potential to see the dollar cross up here, keep going higher, and then eventually seeing, maybe after a few months, one of those red lines pop up, one of those tops actually pop up. So just note that the dollar is bottoming, giving you a signal like, hey, there could be weakness right now. If it's going to take some time, the dollar might continue to head up and set an even bigger trap and get people very, very greedy first. And I think that is something we really need to pay attention to. The other thing I want to pay attention to with the dollar, if we're going to get a corrective move right now, which is something I'm really leaning towards, then we could actually see the dollar drop off. The dollar dropped off last week, and I think that's very important to see, because if we get a corrective move where the market goes down and the dollar goes down at the same time, we actually would not be seeing the behavior of a major top at that moment. So we'll pay attention to that this coming week. We'll look at the shorter time frames for the SPY and the Qs and give you those weekly ranges so we can understand and look into the dollar throughout the week and say, are people really, going out of cash and going into things, or are they going out of things and into cash at a faster rate? And that will really help us out. The key thing from this point of the video is going to be the dollar bases out before the stock market finds a top. And the dollar has based out here and is about to curl up on a monthly chart, which in the past, either that means something bad can happen very quickly, or it can leak out for a few more months. So we better be paying attention to our signals closely, trading like water, and managing risk. Now, a good thing is, hey, if we're crazy, then we shouldn't see weakness across the board or anything like that. And divergence on Dow Jones, giving that flatness across the top for the MACD. So, that could be a potential thing that could drop all of a sudden, right? We see the weakness in momentum there. IWM is one that I would say, hey, this more so, weirdly enough, it is showing divergence, but something funny going on with IWM. I don't know what's going on with these small caps short sellers. I don't know what's going on with it, but we're not seeing that divergence at the same time at all on the MACD for IWM. But as we get to the Qs, you're going to see, ooh, that is not a pretty look. So it looks like tech stocks might be the ones to suffer the most if we experience something bad. If it's just a correction, we'll pay attention to shorter time frames to see if that's going to base out. That's why we actually, made this channel, was to help people understand, retail likes to go short at the exact wrong time. Retail goes short here. Retail goes short here. Where did we call bottoms? Here. Where did we call bottoms for using NVIDIA? Here, right? And we use monthly expected moves to do that. It's not like we're just geniuses or something. No, we just pay attention and we know what to pay attention to. And you can too. And the course is on sale for that reason, because I want to encourage as much retail traders as possible to really understand this and take control of their trading. That is a garbage signal. Is it curled down? No. It is not curled down. We got a blip, and we talked about the fact that this was not closing below the 9, so be aware that there's 30-minute divergence on the SPY here, and we could head up, and all of that ended up happening. So were you trading like water? That's the big deal there. If this crosses, bad sign. So what do I want to do with the Qs? Well, I want to see if there's an important stock showing weakness, or maybe a couple important stocks that are maybe holding the market higher. What stocks do I believe are holding the market higher? Well, any stock that has a monthly that really looks like this and is a high cap stock. So what stocks look like it has a very, very high up monthly and maybe even no divergence there? Well, one of the big ones that you want to pay attention to is NVIDIA. NVIDIA is going to be massive to pay attention to. You can see how there is no divergence here. And you can also see the opportunity, right? Very, very simple. If you just understand the MACD, you understand that this is positive territory. You understand this is a curl up into positive territory at the price point of 27.50 or something like that, right? 27.50, that's 22. Shoot. Okay. Let's actually measure this correctly so you can see it. 27.71 all the way to the top, 450. At this point, you're still up almost 400% in less than 2 years. Fantastic. If I'm bad at the shorter time frames, right? We preach to be accountable. If you are bad at the shorter time frames, that's perfectly fine. Work a job. You don't have to sit and stare at charts all day. Look at a monthly chart and say, do I want to invest in NVIDIA here? F no. This is just blatant, and it's going to become more blatant as we go into a weekly signal, because do I see weakness in this area? Yes, I freaking do. We actually confirmed this for a little bit this week. This is a weekly divergence that shows up, negative divergence here for the MACD, and you see a triple negative divergence for your RSI. That's a big problem. We saw weakness with one little divergence on the RSI for an overall pullback. Thank you for the signals down at the lows to tell us you were going to go higher. But we notice now we have it on the MACD, we have it on the RSI at the same time. Has it crossed? No, it hasn't. And this is a great example. So I'm actually going to show it to you on the shorter time frame. This is a great example of how much paying attention to momentum can benefit you, because everyone and their mom, when this was down here, was saying, oh my God, NVIDIA's going to fall through the floor. What were we saying? You can go look at the live videos. Yeah, it might keep falling through the floor. If that weekly crosses, that's a bad thing. See how it looks at the end of the week, because right now, you have a 30-minute divergence outside of a weekly expected move. Everything that we pay attention to is right here. Now, is this the best reversal signal in the world? No, it is not. So we have to pay attention to a lower high and maybe reacting down off the 5 if we're not able to take that back. But we can notice that the price action is heading down, and you have a positive divergence here for your MACD, and it's not on the RSI at the same time. But this is what we were paying attention to. We were paying attention to the fact that I was like, if they don't want the stock market to crash during Thanksgiving, then they're going to have to buy this thing back up, right? Just thinking of the psychology behind it. And that helped me out too. So a weekly helped you, knowing about divergence, knowing about the MACD helped you, knowing about where support will be can really help you out. And now we can know, hey, if this pops up, that could be some kind of right shoulder, and maybe there's a bigger mess to clean up for NVIDIA. But the main thing about this portion is, if you're going to see major weakness in the Qs because it has the worst weekly signal right now, then if you're seeing it in a big stock like NVIDIA, you might want to pay attention. Another stock that's probably holding the Qs up pretty nicely is Meta. Meta's another one that, hey, this came down and it's really benefited here. And you can see how the simple swing trade right here at about a price point of about 240 could have been a good level to say, hey, that's more what I want to see for an investment. And if you hold that till right now in less than 2 years, 140%. Do you see how investing can really help you? And I just want to point this out because everyone wants to trade the shorter time frames because they think they can make money faster. But if you're just losing money in the shorter time frames, are you actually making money faster? If you're just not good at them, it's okay. Just be accountable. Get rid of your ego for a second. Just say, I'm not doing well at this. Let me try to see what I'm doing wrong. Am I not actually following my strategy? Do I need to learn a little bit more? Or is it just not for me? And I would benefit more from just having a job, making good amounts of money, and investing at the right times. That is something that you can really have a conversation with you about, and it takes a lot of balls to do. It genuinely takes a lot of balls to do because you have to really look inside and blame yourself for a second. I get it. It's hard to do. But we notice this monthly, again, just like NVIDIA, not showing divergence really on the MACD right here, just a huge move higher. We're starting to see it pop up kind of flat here across, but right there we see the divergence popping up here, which means, if this is going to be something like NVIDIA, this might have a weekly, oh God, it might have a weekly divergence. And we do have it. And the crazy thing about Meta is it's already confirmed and it is likely to get a lower high here. We're going to talk about that on the shorter time frames on Sunday, but you've already confirmed the weekly divergence that likes to roll over monthly charts. So Meta, one of the stocks holding the stock market higher, just like NVIDIA, is showing even more weakness than NVIDIA. So now you have another stock that is showing some very, very ugly things. And I think you need to pay attention to Meta because it can always curl up into positive territory and make a move higher. But right now it's confirmed that weekly divergence, and it has it confirming right before NVIDIA might confirm its weekly divergence as well. Now we are going to give you the main takeaway in this portion from the whole video, but I want you to be aware of weakness that could come really quickly because we are seeing this in the shorter time frames. I just want you to join back for Sunday so we can show it to you and you get weekly expected moves. They will really help you out. Trust me, if you just don't buy anything, don't get anything, don't learn anything, take this away from this video, use weekly and monthly expected moves. They will really help you. And what I want to pay attention to with volatility is the fact that we saw this move up. We saw the 2 hour divergence to give us that move, right? Another benefit to paying attention to momentum. The 2 hour divergence led to a pop here from the dollar that actually was able to cross up for a moment, but we saw the reversal signals in the other way, so we were ready for a bounce in some way. Now we notice that as we come down here and we start to make some little reversal signals across the way, we do notice the daily showing this flatness on the MACD. You do notice the daily making that divergence there that has not confirmed on either the RSI or the MACD yet. So pay attention because this market could easily squeeze and head towards 1212, and we'll pay attention to signals down there because when you get to 1212, that's when you know people are getting extremely greedy. Okay, we'll notice that extreme greed comes in down towards 1212, and you can remain there and make some divergences, and that's when big pops happen. That could happen again, but I want to keep you aware that as of right now, you still have the crash signal confirmed here. Crash signal is still there. That's why volatility has been behaving like a bear market, but we haven't necessarily seen that in the price action at all times. I just want you to pay attention to this week if something bad happens, because we could see a corrective move and see volatility really take off here right away and then have it be some kind of trap. So make sure we're trading like water. Now, the main takeaway for this video is these things have a way to move up. These things have a way to move down. We've looked through some times where weakness shows up, and we are seeing weakness in a lot of areas. So we have to pay attention to even next week. But we understand now how this could really leak into maybe even October of 2025. So the points we're really paying attention to are right now, early 2025, maybe even leading into March, but then going into October of 2025. And now we have some key times to have in our brain, and we can even mark it on our calendars and be like, okay, what am I seeing around these times? Hey, I'm really, really bullish. Let me just look back and see what these look like on the bigger time frames. Okay, I need to be safe for a little bit of time here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Those courses, everything's on sale right now. You can join the Patreon to get weekly and monthly expected moves, but main thing here is it's Thanksgiving week. I'm super thankful for this community. I'm thankful that you guys hit the like button so we can share more more of this info with retail traders. And it is awesome to see a new person show up every single live stream and be just as excited about the last one to get this information. I really appreciate all of the emails that I keep getting saying, wow, I never looked at the MACD this way. I've traded for even a long time, and I've never really understood why divergence is important and why it actually shows you that weakness in momentum, so it can really help you out. And that's exactly what this channel wants to do. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate it. I hope you have a great weekend. Go do something fun. The weather here is cold as hell and we hate it, but go do something fun. Tune in tomorrow for some shorter time frames and get those weekly expected moves and be reloaded and ready for Monday, because things can get a little wild and we'll be paying attention right there with you. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend. Peace out.